America, bonjour, hi, Canada, Hugh live inside the Beltway on this Thursday, October the 27th in the year of our Lord 2022, and boy is the red wave building. The Fetterman inflection, the Fetterman inflection, the Fetterman inflection. I would use a hashtag with that. I have been using a hashtag with that because it occurred to me as I prepared for a special report last night over with Brett Barron. I'm always honored to work with Brett, but especially when Britt Hume and Mara Liasson are there. That's like the two giants of the special report panel are Britt Hume and Mara Liasson. And when the giants come out, I like to be there, like to listen to them. Mara and I had a nice chat. Britt was not in the green room. Brett was down in Georgia. And it just settled into me that the despair among Democrats is deep. Why? Why? One senator collapsing in Pennsylvania, and John Fetterman's campaign has collapsed. It's over. Bounce the rubble. That's not enough. And then you look at the numbers this morning, and across the map, I mean, from east to west and north to south, from Wisconsin to Georgia, nothing is working for the Democrats. Everything is going downhill. And I'm going to talk with Don Bolduc this morning in New Hampshire, and I cover New Hampshire, stand by New Hampshire. I'm talking with Adam Laxalt from Nevada at the bottom of this hour. Early morning in Nevada means people are going home from the shift, working in the entertainment business, paying their $7 a gallon gas because of Joe Biden. And the Fetterman inflection is the moment when, after that debate, people say not only, boy, he incoherent and a progressive who's trying to get out his lines. He's been coached to say, I'm for fracking, and everyone knows he's not. He's been coached to say, I'm hard on crime, and everyone knows he's not. He's been coached to say, everybody understands why he chased a black kid with a gun and put a gun in his chest, and everyone doesn't understand. And he can't say what he's been coached to say, but you know what the Democrats knew were the key messages by what they focused on trying to coach John Fetterman to say, and he couldn't. And the inflection comes when the whole country, and by the way, that had a huge audience. It's the only thing that people talked about yesterday is how awful that was. The panic that spread among Democrats, it was like the 5 stages of grief. In market terms, there's a moment when markets simply collapse and they say, that's it. We're not going to try and resist this downtrend. Might come today, by the way, because Meta, Facebook, had terrible earnings yesterday, consistent with the Biden economy. But after the Fetterman, it sunk in how bad he was, how terribly Democrats had been misled. That it wasn't just the Democrats who went down the toilet across the United States. It was also the legacy media, because they had hid this. One brave NBC reporter had one little interview, and she said a couple of little things about Fetterman not really being able to function. And she was savaged across the board. Well, it's not just that one reporter who got savage. Anyone who said anything about Fetterman got savage. And then finally, it's begun to... Why was the legacy media covering up for John Fetterman? Why has the legacy media covered up for the infirmity of Joe Biden, for the incoherence of Kamala Harris? Why have they covered up for the insanity of Nancy Pelosi and the ruthless partisanship of Chuck Schumer? Why have they covered up the impacts of inflation? Why have they covered up the fact that the billions and trillions that have been spent have done nothing but make our problems worse? Why did they cover up the Afghanistan collapse? Why has there been no soul searching about that? Why? Because the legacy media isn't media. It's a Democratic partisan operation from top to bottom, except for Fox. The big networks, the big newspapers, they are partisans and they are in on the gig. The overclass is exposed. The Fetterman inflection, we're going to look back at this because it's going to be a big red wave. It's going to be both houses of Congress. I think Republicans are looking at, Rick Scott was talking about Connecticut yesterday. Go for it, Connecticut. I'm on in Connecticut. Kind of a lost land, but Don Bolduc, New Hampshire, you've got to deliver the message. Granite State voters, you have to knock off Maggie Hassan. Stun them early. Knock them down early on election night and elect Don Bolduc. We'll talk with him later today. Here's one comment from last night. One comment I made going around the horn. Brett Baer comes to me and asks me about the Fetterman performance, cut number 40.
Hugh, I've seen your Twitter feed. I think you're a little more bullish on Republican chances.
Well, I think last night was catastrophic, and not just for John Fetterman's campaign. Down ticket in Pennsylvania, it was disastrous. But I think for candidates who are similarly positioned to Fetterman, like Raphael Warnock, who's a hard left progressive in Georgia, and Mandela Barnes, who's a hard left progressive in Wisconsin, it destroyed their campaigns as well, because Fetterman inelegantly attempted to repudiate their entire agenda, thus distancing himself from fracking and from crime and the border. I think it also hurts Democrats who are kind of invisible, like Tim Bennett in Colorado, or Michael Bennett in Colorado, or Cortez Masto in Nevada, or even Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire, where Don Bolduc is. Fetterman's fiasco will be a defining event of this sequence of elections, I think. I think it has knock-on effects everywhere. It was so bad for Democrats. So bad for Democrats. So in market terms, there comes a moment where the market capitulates, where it says, that's it. I'm taking my money out. I'm going home. You just sell off your losses and say, I'm done getting beating up. We had capitulation after the Fetterman fiasco, the Fetterman inflection, followed by panic. And boy, Democrats were panicked yesterday. Everywhere you look, every single off-the-record comment. Oh, he screwed us. Oh, it's terrible. Who didn't tell us? Who decided that? Everybody knew. And the media knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew. But now they're panicked because it's out in the open. It was like the Afghanistan collapse. It was a flashback. Everybody knew. Finally, resignation. They're going to get crushed. But you know who doesn't know who's going to get crushed? Legacy media. People have had it. They're going to just turn off the set. I don't know if you can restore the credibility of a major news organization in 10 years without top-to-bottom changes. Because everybody has been lying to you. Every single person. I have here the lead story in the Washington Post this morning. Democrats scramble into defensive posture in final stage of midterms. Less than 2 weeks before the midterm elections, Democrats are trying to shore up the party's candidates as Republicans charge deeper into their terrain. And it goes on to talk about the fact that Jill Biden was in Rhode Island trying to shore up a district that was won by her husband in 2020 by 14 points. It's not going to work. Alan Fung's going to win. Alan Fung is going to be the congressman from Rhode Island. And, and everybody's beginning to rethink what has been going on with the media in this country for 6 years. What has been going on with the overclass, with the permanent government? What did they do to Trump? Beginning with the meeting between Comey, Brennan, and Clapper in Trump Tower. All the way through this moment. Who's been complicit in lying to everyone about everything to protect their own, and I'm going to put this bluntly, money. This is about money. This is about people in positions of privilege and power. And I know them. I go to lunch with them. I like them. I've worked with every network. I've worked with pretty much everybody in town. I'm a columnist for the Washington Post. I spent 5 years with NBC. I've worked on every network. These are all nice people. They are all complicit. Everybody knows that the media is hard left. They just never knew they would lie this much. The Fetterman inflection. Write it down. Write it down. I'm joined now by Adam Laxalt, the next senator from Nevada, and I really believe that to be true. In fact, last night I was on special report with Brett Baer and Britt Hume and Mara Eliason, and Britt Hume was trying to remember all the people who were winning, and Adam, your biggest problem is everyone's banking the win. I don't want people to bank the win. You got to run through the tape, man.
No question. I mean, look, we're blessed. We've been up in the last, 9 out of the 10 polls, but it is a 1 to 2 point race. And, they got a great turnout machine. And so nobody better take their foot off the gas. No question that Chuck Schumer, the Democrats, are pouring money in literally every single day. They're pouring more money in to try to save Masto.
My argument last night, Adam, was that the Fetterman catastrophe for Democrats is that it crushed enthusiasm everywhere, and it brought down the lefties like Warnock and Mandela Barnes and Fetterman, but it also brought down Cortez Masto and Bennett and Murray and all the pretend moderate. They're all exposed. Their agenda has been so disastrous. Does anyone think they've done a good job in Nevada?
Well, the bottom line is they spent $90 million trying to prop up her record, and she's, of course, ran from Joe Biden and pretending like she doesn't even know who he is. But that's what we're doing right now, Hugh. We're in the middle of a 14 straight day, 40-plus stop bus tour in every single county of the state. The enthusiasm is soaring. And for your Nevada listeners, AdamLaxalt.com/events. Join us. Be part of closing this thing out. But that's our job. Get out.
Now, I was
voters,
talking
make sure
on the
people turn
drive
out.
back from the studio. I was talking to the founder of Salem about Spanish language radio and how crucial it is. Do you have the budget? Are you up on Spanish language radio, Adam Laxalt?
We were up on Spanish radio. I'm actually face to camera in Spanish on Spanish TV. A lot of the outside groups have spent pretty unprecedented money on the right on Spanish language. So, we were leading, and then of course the Democrats poured in gazillions of dollars to take the lead in those airways. So certainly, if people can support, we got to keep combating this. But we feel like we've got plenty. The bottom line is she went from up 42 to up 10, and that's because as soon as people understand that she's been a rubber stamp for Joe Biden, and she's given the Hispanic community high inflation, high gas, less safe streets, open borders, and did not stop the shutting down of our schools. All of these things have combined for the Hispanic community to understand that the Democrats, the Joe Biden, Catherine Cortez Masto agenda simply does not move the Latino community forward.
Yeah, talk to us about the Hispanic vote. Why have they moved decidedly towards you and other Republicans across the country? What is moving them?
Yeah, look, first and foremost, we started a year ago. Latinos for Laxalt has been the strongest Senate campaign in the Hispanic community ever in this state.
Wow.
And so we've been there. We've been fighting. We've been making the case. As we just discussed, we're on Spanish language, and we're there. But also, it's the fact that our state is in so much trouble. And in 2020, they were able to kind of try to blame things on Trump and deflect from the governor when the governors are Democrat governors who shut down our state. But once a couple of years have passed, and they realized, wow, you mean this isn't Republicans' fault? We only have Democrats in charge in Nevada. There's only Democrats in charge at the national level. That's when I think they started taking a serious look, and people started understanding these policies are absolutely crushing the Hispanic community and killing our state.
Now, Adam, there's nobody like a candidate to ask what's really going on because you got to talk to everyone. So I want to really ask you about parents and kids in Nevada, and this is not just Hispanic parent, any parent. When I heard Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan lie to the people in Michigan 2 nights ago and say we only shut the schools down for 3 months, and everyone knew that was a lie. And when I heard Kathy Hochul, Democratic governor in New York, say, "I don't know why you Lee Zeldin are upset about crime," I thought, these people are absolutely disconnected from the reality of the ordinary American family. Kids lost 2.5 years of learning, and crime scares the hell out of everyone. Is that what you're hearing?
Everything you hear nationally is worse here. We're 49th in education. Ooh. Our crime has soared. The border, we have fentanyl and human trafficking spikes, the likes of which we've never seen before. We had all-time closures in small businesses, particularly in the Hispanic community, all-time closures. And these businesses are still barely hanging on a couple years after these shutdowns. And so you're absolutely right. These Democrats are shameless. Catherine Cortez Masto is running a revisionist Senate campaign with millions and millions of dollars. If they didn't have all this money in the media, we'd be up 10 in this race and this thing would be over. But we all know the media throws in and all popular culture, and they just pretend like this is not Democrat policy. But I'll tell you, that's what I do every single time I'm speaking to a group. And believe me, we've been in front of more Nevadans than any candidate of either party in this state, by far. And
but I think you're the first guy I sat down with who's running this cycle. First person who came and said, I'm running, here's what I'm going to do, and you have never stopped working. I want to close by reminding people you are a veteran, and there are a lot of veterans in Nevada. A lot of veterans listening right now, and this administration has screwed the Department of Defense and abandoned our veterans. What do they say to you?
They are absolutely furious with the Afghanistan withdrawal. They're embarrassed by General Milley and General Austin. This leadership should have been replaced. We all know that those that are in active duty, if it was somebody that was in charge, they'd be replaced. Why did these generals get spared? Well, we all know it's politics. Then Joe Biden would have to actually own up for his disaster. And so people are fierce. They've never forgotten Afghanistan. They know that this approach has made us less safe. They know that this approach invited Ukraine, has, certainly made the China threat far more imminent. And so people understand that this guy is simply not capable to be our commander-in-chief. He's an embarrassment. I mean, heck, you saw it just a few days ago on a live interview, one that presumably he prepared for 4 weeks. He fell asleep.
Yep.
This is our commander-in-chief. It's dangerous, and I hope people understand that the Senate, my race gives the 51. If the Senate can block this agenda, we can at least get rid of radical appointments for the next few years. We can make sure there's no more new spending. We can start some hearings and hold the DOD accountable, whether it's for kicking out our service members, for choosing not to take a shot, whether it's the wokeness, or whether it's just the general decline of military preparedness. This we have to go after. The American public are with us. Nevadans are with me. Masto, nowhere to be found on any of this stuff. It's time to get to work and save our military.
And so my audience, help Adam Laxalt out at adamlaxalt.com. Those airwaves are expensive in Las Vegas. He's got to be on Spanish language as well as English because there are no conservative talkers there in Spanish. But get out your checkbooks for adamlaxalt.com. Adam, thank you. We'll play this a couple of times. Run through the tape as I know you will.
Amen. November
Thank you,
8th. Thanks, Hugh.
Bye-bye. I'm Hugh Hewitt. As all of you know, I cover all of New Hampshire, Manchester, Keene, and from the north, out of Portland, all of northern New Hampshire. So listen up, Granite State voters. General Don Bolduc wants to be your United States Senator. And Senator Tom Cotton and Senator Rick Scott told me yesterday he's the real deal and he's winning. General, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. It's great to have you on for the first time.
Well, sir, thank you very much. It's great to be on.
General, full disclosure, I didn't think he could win, and I told people that over and over again. I was for Chuck Morris in the primary, and then Cotton slapped me around a little bit and said, this general's going to win, and then Rick Scott said they're pouring money in New Hampshire. What happened?
Well, it's called hard work. It's called perseverance. It's called never quitting. And that's the kind of campaign that we ran. And we're running now.
You've got my voice. I just got over that. Whenever you go out and do 5, 6, 7 events a day, you get the voice. So we'll slow down and give you the chance. Take your time. Tell people about yourself, because if anyone's listening in New Hampshire, General Bolduc's going to make a great senator.
Well, I feel that my whole life has been centered around public service, whether it was, working on our family farm as a farmer and providing public service of food and dairy products and other things to our community, or a police officer in Laconia, or a 33-plus year career in the military, going from private to general. My whole life has been oriented on serving others, and I approve that, and I want to take this opportunity to serve my country and my state and Granite Staters in a different way. This is about an outsider versus a career politician, someone who will be accessible versus someone who's inaccessible. And I will work for you, not special interests, not lobbyists, not the wealthy political elite, because I'm not connected to any of them. I don't take their money. And I have been campaigning for 2 years in this state, every town and city, averaging 4 to 5 events a day. And my opponent has been hiding. And today we'll have a debate, but that debate is completely controlled by her. The 45 people supporting her will be massed in the audience, and it will be one of these events that is protected from the inside and outside, so she doesn't have to answer tough questions about what she's done to Granite Staters, inflation, education, and forcing people to choose between heating and eating. I will go there to serve you. I will be your ambassador and conduit. And I think I've proven that to Granite Staters, and most importantly, to people that I'm going to have to work with in Washington, D.C. to get things done.
General Bolduc, I just was reading what John Ellis sent me. 41% of American families cannot make their budget. They're not able to provide food for the family, clothing for the kids, shoes for the soccer games. I don't know what kind of Maggie Hassan bodyguards are around her and how they've surrounded the debate, but facts are stubborn things. Isn't that what people are talking about, the price of gas and food?
Yes, everybody's talking about it except for Senator Hassan. She avoids the subject at all costs. Yesterday she precluded New Hampshire Journal, Michael Graham from being at a press conference, and he is press. They let everybody else in that was going to write positive things about her, or were in her camp, but not other news outlets. I mean, this is what is being done: hiding the truth from Granite Staters, avoiding the hard facts that Americans and Granite Staters are hurting in every way. Moms and dads making choices about eating and heating, eating less so their kids can eat more, skipping meals so their kids can have 3 meals. Our education system is a complete disaster, and she receives the second highest amount of money from the teachers union. Everything that she's done, whether it is voting with Joe Biden 100% on failed energy policies, to spending $5.2 trillion and adding to the debt between March and August of this year, and then voting against common sense bills placed on the table in Washington, D.C., in August that would increase oil production, that would remove the 87,000 IRS agents and the $80 billion and invest that in the border and in the Border Patrol on that border, securing both our southern and northern borders and other ports of entry, and protecting our children from this opioid crisis, human trafficking, and illicit weapons trafficking. Everything she does is a disaster, and she has failed to account for it. And she does that by hiding and controlling every single public event. I bring Tulsi Gabbard to the state. I bring Nikki Haley to the state. She brings Cory Booker, someone who votes with her 100% of the time and has put Granite Staters in peril, and particularly our children.
General, if I had a bingo card for the debate tonight, I would have her card covered with, she's going to say, election denier 100 times. The interesting thing is, every time she says that, she's going to lose ground. She doesn't know that. But every time, people are sick of this stuff. They want to talk about inflation. She's an inflation denier. She's a teachers union denier. She's an energy crisis denier. She's a border denier. She's an opioid denier. And so what are you going to do when she says, Don, you're an election denier?
Well, quite frankly, I'm just going to completely avoid it and go right into what you just said. Being an election denier or being accused of being an election denier is not what Granite Staters are thinking about. And she would know that if she got out on the ground. And she's not on the ground. And she thinks that people are going to take that to the ballot box. And they're not. They're going to sit in the ballot box. They're going to look at that ballot, and they're going to go, my children, my livelihood, our future, our education, eating versus eating. All of this is going to double. And they're going to circle and fill in Don Bolduc's name because they're going to realize at that moment that she is not going to fight for these things, that she is going to maintain the status quo, and she is going to support special interests and lobbyists and political wealthy that drive a different agenda that hurts us. And they will see that once, they're going to go in there and they're going to vote, and they're going to vote for their family. They're going to vote for their children. They're going to vote for their grandchildren. And she has absolutely no record of supporting that. During COVID, she locked us down. She masked our children. She closed our places of worship. She closed our education. She is a proponent of vaccinating our children from 6 months old and up to go to school. Everything she has done during COVID, she hid from us, and she didn't help us. And then she rolled right into 2 years of Joe Biden, 100% support for him, that resulted in historic inflation and moms and dads choosing between heating and eating, and all that is going to get worse. And worst of all, she takes measures like promoting the strategic reserve and using that as a Band-Aid for what is a compound fracture in this country. I mean, the bone is through the skin, and she wants to put a Scooby-Doo Band-Aid on it, and it's not going to work.
General, I know that after she's done calling you an election denier, and I hope you call her an inflation denier, she's going to intend to abortion and say that you want to ban abortion. That's also a lie. I know you'll say it's a lie. But are you going to make the argument that, look, I believe in people's making decisions for themselves, and New Hampshire's believe in that? How are you going to respond when she lies about what you believe about abortion?
Well, like I've responded since the beginning, I don't support a federal ban. I support New Hampshire's law. I put my trust in the governor and the legislature to do the right thing for Granite Staters. And she is the one that, is on the wrong side of this issue with Granite Staters, in that, she doesn't recognize that it's a state issue now. She doesn't recognize New Hampshire's law. And, oh, by the way, she supports abortion all the way up to the time of birth, which is not consistent with majority of Granite Staters. So, she's the one that is on the wrong side of this issue. And I said this time and time again, but I'm not the one with $30 million, to lie about abortion, Social Security, and Medicare. She has that money, and she has that ability. I can only go out on the ground every single day and work hard to enlighten people on the truth. That's why I need people to go to DonBolduc.com and help me out any way they can. If they can do that, we can counter her lies, because they're outright lies. And I'm just going to call it what it is. It's a lie. You got this wrong. Stop doing it. I've done it before. She fails to listen because she doesn't listen to Granite Staters.
I am going to get most of the audio of this debate and play it tomorrow, but I do want to make sure I close by letting people know. I want to thank you for your life of service. You're a Mustang. I mean, you began as an enlisted man, you rose to sergeant, you became a commissioned officer, and you ended up being the head of Special Forces Africa Command. And what Cotton told me about your military record, I had no idea. And I appreciate all the years you spent defending me and my family, and I hope Granite Staters do. I know it's got a fine, proud tradition of producing warriors out of New Hampshire, but I had no idea, and I hope they have a chance to tell. But let's close with the media. You saw the Fetterman inflection on Tuesday night, the great exposure of John Fetterman. Is anyone going to ask her a tough question at all? I mean, it's softball. It's patty cake with Maggie Hassan.
She's not going to get asked a tough question. She's in a debate that's been completely rigged for her benefit with the audience, most likely with the questions. I'm just going to call it as it is. But unlike her, I have the guts to show up and say, hey, listen, what is being said here, what she is saying, what she is doing, what she has done, how she has served is not consistent with the type of representatives we need in Washington, D.C. It is hurting us across the board in every area that counts, and it's really about our children and grandchildren. And so I'm going to be there, despite the fact that this is something that has been arranged for her benefit. But she is on the wrong side of this, and even arranging it for her benefit is going to fail, because I'm going to take it to her. I don't have to recognize the question if it is one of these questions that is just senseless. I will go directly to her and make her account for what she's done to Granite Staters. So, bring it on is what I say. I'm a general. I grew up fighting my way, to be successful and to serve others. I've been in combat. I've been out there. I know what it's like, and I will take the fight to Maggie Hassan on that debate stage today, even if she has tried to stack the deck in her favor all the way around.
General Bolduc, thank you for coming on. I'll do the post-game report tomorrow and let everyone know how it goes. I have great confidence in you, and I appreciate your coming on. Good luck in the closing kick. You've closed to a dead heat. I think New Hampshire is going to make a change. General Don Bolduc, thank you. DonBolduc.com. DonBolduc.com. BOLDUC. DONBOLDUC. Help him out. Joined now by the next senator from Colorado, Joe O'Dea. And I've never been more certain than after the debate that Joe O'Dea had with the invisible senator, Michael Bennet, on Tuesday night, because, Joe, you thrashed him. Congratulations.
Well, we had fun. That was a lot of fun. Hugh, thanks for having me on again this morning.
Well, when you're having fun, you're winning. The Browns aren't having any fun right now, but neither are the Broncos. So I just wanted to get back at you for that. Joe and I were together in Colorado. Joe, they love you in the Rocky Mountain State, in the Centennial State. How do you feel in the closing stretch?
Well, we got our nose to the grindstone. I've always been an underdog, Hugh, so I'm used to it. We just keep hammering away. We're going to get across the entire state here in the next week and a half, make sure we get to see everybody. But people are fired up here. They're ready for a change. And you could have seen last night when we were talking to Senator Bennet about, all the issues in Colorado. He just refuses to take any credit for what he's done to our great state. And so it was kind of fun.
Joe, I would, Brett O'Donnell's one of the great debate coaches in America. I would show him a tape of your performance last night. I don't know who helped you, but you were calm, centered, respectful, and just a beatdown. Because you don't have to get excited. You don't have to get angry. You just have to get to the facts, and you did again and again and again. I don't know what people thought in Colorado, but I played a lot of that yesterday. You crushed him.
Yeah, well, when the facts are on your side and he's got nothing to show for it, and all we're doing is talking about inflation, we're talking about the price of gas, talking about the price of groceries, those things that are just tearing up working Americans here, it's in your favor, and that's all we did. We'll continue to do that. People are ready for a change. They know that what's going on right now is not working. It just isn't working for working Americans. And so that's why I need to get to the Senate so we can make some changes and get this country back on track.
But we need normal people in the United States Senate. Honest to goodness, you're a normal. I mean, you're not normal. You're an extraordinarily successful small businessman who became a big businessman, who married extraordinary woman and built an extraordinary life. I want to raise you some money this morning because I need you to be on Spanish language TV. I know you're making big inroads in the Spanish-speaking population of Colorado. And there are a lot of bilingual people who just like Spanish talk and Spanish music, so they listen to the Spanish station. How are the funds, Joe O'Dea?
Well, we can always use more if they go to joeodea.com, joeodea.com. They can help me raise money. All the money we're getting right now is going right onto TV ads. We've got another radio ad. Hugh, I want to make sure that you're getting your share. We'll throw our radio ad on your channel as well. That'll start this morning. We're hitting that hard, and we've also been on all the Spanish channels. Did an interview last week. I got 3 more this week on the Spanish channel. So we're just reaching out to all of Colorado. We want to make sure everybody knows there's a change coming, and we need the change. I want to lead an effort to lower inflation. I want to get this price of gas back down. These are just simple things that are going to make working Americans' lives a lot easier.
Joe, I appreciate the thought. My GM's going to kill me for saying this, but, you've locked down my audience. You've locked it down. You don't have to spend money on the Hugh Hewitt Show. What you need to do is talk to people in places like to kids, to the youngsters who are, I got a note this morning from a friend who lost their job, and young man, works harder than anybody, lost his job because the housing industry is collapsing. And you know that this is Joe Biden's inflationary economy, and we've got you and I are set. We've worked our whole lives, but young people need to change the direction of this country.
Well, this will be the 4th recession I've been through. It's here. I've talked to a lot of my home builder friends, and they're starting to put their projects on hold, which is going to, it's going to crush the supply again. We don't have enough homes right now as it is. This will make it worse. This will continue to hold prices up. It's a sad situation right now. People need to understand that, hey, until we make a change in the direction of this country, we're going to continue to be, victimized by inflation, by high prices. And so I've been talking to kids about that as well. I mean, we've got a lot of young people that showed up. That was up at Mesa College last night for the debate. Nothing but young people in the room, and I got a lot of hands to shake there last night. It was great.
You know, Joe, I was impressed by the age diversity at our event in Colorado and by the racial and ethnic diversity. I think you've actually grown a new Republican coalition, one that begun by Donald Trump, undoubtedly brought in a lot of blue collar people, but now expanding into new Americans, Americans of second generation, third generation, and especially into the demographic. They can't imagine this country continuing this way. And you've just brought common sense to this. So I'll talk to you again before this is over. But how do you finish? I mean, you've got to finish strong. It's still uphill. He's an incumbent. He got a lot of money. It's a blue state. How do you finish strong?
Well, they're throwing $30 million in ads against us, which is just tough. But what we do is we continue to work hard. That's what we've been doing. We get across the state. We talk to the voters, and we get them to turn out. If the voters turn out, I will be the next U.S. Senator for Colorado. And that's going to be the key. They've got to talk to their friends, their neighbors. They got to talk to their families and make sure that they get every ballot turned in. And that's how we make change. We got to show up.
Make sure you vote in Colorado. Joe O'Dea, come back, give us an update next week. Where Republican National Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel is this morning, because she's been everywhere and doing a great job everywhere she goes. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman. Where are you?
Good morning. I actually have a day at home in Michigan, and then I head to Wisconsin and Ohio tomorrow, D.C., New York. The list goes on and on. Lots of events the next week.
All right, since you're in Michigan, let's start with Tudor Dixon and the worst governor in America, Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer lied into the camera and said that Michigan schools had only been closed 3 months. Did that matter to Wolverine State voters?
Absolutely it did. And it enraged people like me because my kids weren't in school full-time for a year and a half. I have a son who's a senior right now. So he started high school as a freshman, got locked down, didn't go back to school full-time till he was a junior. And the stress, the anxiety of having to apply for college and losing that learning and the deficit, I had it in my home. Parents around the state had it, and Gretchen Whitmer turned her back on us. So for her to stand on that debate stage and be smug and lie about the kids that she left behind, I think enraged a lot of parents, myself included.
Okay, let's skip over to New York. You know Lee Zeldin. You know Lee Zeldin was attacked by a man with a knife on the campaign stage, and the accidental governor, Kathy Hochul, said, I don't know why you get upset about crime. What is wrong with these Democrats? Do they want to suffer the most lopsided loss in history, which is, I think, where you're guiding the Republican victory towards?
Yeah, I think they feel very comfortable lying, and they don't give the voters enough credit. Everybody knows crime is rampant in New York. Nobody wants to go on the subway. We know that they have cashless bail where police arrest a violent criminal who's back on the street the next day, which is completely demoralizing to the men and women in uniform. Democrats own the crime wave. They own the border. The open border. They own the drugs coming across. They own the inflation. They own the gas prices. They own the deficit that our kids have in school. They own it all. And then they have the audacity to stand in front of us and say, there's nothing to see here. Everything's great. No family in America feels that way. So
let's go to the third great
is to vote.
The third great collapse, the Fetterman inflection. That made many people angry, not just because John Fetterman had been lying to people about his ability to do the job, but the media had been covering up for him. And I really think he hurt not just the other radicals out there, Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin and Raphael Warnock in Georgia, but every Democrat. And I think he hurt every legacy media outlet that has not been telling the truth about him, Ronna McDaniel. Do you agree? And by all means, now you're wrong. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, let's look at the media. They were radio silent, crickets all night during that debate because they had nothing to say to excuse Fetterman. But the fact that he debated so late, the fact that he hid his medical records, the fact that he continues to hide his medical records. If this were a Republican, this would be wall-to-wall coverage. The media would be calling on him to step aside. So their hypocrisy is on full display. But what's worse about Fetterman are his policies. This is a radical. He is left of Bernie Sanders. This is a scary guy. We cannot have him in the Senate with what he believes with crime, cashless bail, letting prisoners out. I mean, this is a very frightening person, and we need to get Oz over the edge. I'd say to everybody, go to GOP.com if you can support us in these final 12 days to get out the vote. That's what we're focused on, or go to vote.gop to make sure you get out to vote.
Now, I am going to go through the mechanics of GOTV in a second, get out the vote efforts. I had General Bolduc on earlier, and I brought him on because yesterday Rick Scott told me that, believe it or not, Dick Blumenthal in Connecticut is running into trouble. So that means, up north in New Hampshire, the Granite State, that's real conservatism up there. Bolduc is tied. None of us saw that. There's a landslide going on. What do you attribute to it, Chairwoman McDaniel?
Yeah, I was with General Bolduc the day after he won the nomination. I went to New Hampshire. We did a unity event with the governor, with Caroline Leavitt. I think he can win that race. He needs investment. He does. Resources are going to be a factor in that race. And kudos to Rick Scott for putting money in there, and the RNC's obviously in there. I think the American people are waking up. In the summer, they're not paying attention, and in the fall, they start dialing into the issues. And what are the issues that are resonating? The economy. Everybody's waking up, going to the grocery store. They know it costs more. They know gas costs more. They know home heating costs more. It's just a fact. And they know the Democrats are the cause of it with their policies. So Democrats are trying to distract and talk about abortion, abortion, abortion. And voters are saying, no, you own this, the economy, the crime, the border, the drugs, the deficits. These are the things that we care about, and you haven't fixed it, and so we're going to fire you.
I'm going to be doing election night coverage with the Salem News Channel, and I'll do the early shift because I got to get up early the next morning. We won't know anything about Arizona probably till I come into the studio and probably on the following day. Terry Lake is going to win easily. I mean, don't I kind of feel bad for Katie Hobbs? She's such a terrible candidate, but Carrie Lake is such a
for her.
Okay, I'll shake it off. Don't worry, Ronna. But she's so bad, and I think she's killing Mark Kelly's chances. And Blake Master has hit stride. So I think Washington State, Colorado, and Arizona, certainly Nevada. I had Adam Laxalt on today. He's going to win. But what do you think about those Western states?
I think they're all coming online. I think the movement's going our way. Elections are about peaking at the right time. And we started to peak when early voting and absentee voting started, and then we are Election Day voters. Republicans are Election Day voters. I would love people to go vote in person early right now and then sign up to be a poll watcher. But I think Carrie Lake's going to win, and she's going to have coattails. But the other thing about the Blake Masters story, who Blake Masters is a great candidate, is you've got three House candidates in Arizona, Juan Ciscomani, Eli Crane, and Kelly Cooper, that are running great races. These are potential flips in Arizona. So the whole ticket in Arizona is working together, and that's why I think things are working really well.
All right, I want to go to my old home. I left Orange County in 2016 to come back here to take over for the retiring Bill Bennett. And I miss Orange County. I loved Irvine. I loved everything about it. Scott Baugh has been my friend for 30 years. He will make a great congresswoman.
Yes,
Kathy Porter is an embarrassment to California, and she got $20 million. I think she's going to lose. Am I right? Katie Porter.
Oh, I was just with Scott Baugh, Brian Marriott, Michelle Steele, the whole Orange County crew. Young Kim is a great candidate too, but Scott Baugh is going against Katie Porter. Katie Porter's a liar. She attacked the Irvine Police Department. She's a professor who makes her students buy her books so she can make money. I mean, she really is a shameful candidate, and Scott Baugh is running a great race. Those are two pickups that we can have in Orange County with Scott Baugh and Brian Marriott. And I think if we have a good night, those are candidates that will come online on top of some of the candidates in Northern California as well.
Okay, I want to finish in the very far northwest corner. Washington State is weird.
It's Smiley. Yeah.
Yeah, talk to me about it. It's a weird, I don't ever, I'm on in Seattle right now. We're talking to people going to work. They got to vote by mail. What do you think?
Yeah, they have to vote by mail. I mean, Tiffany Smiley is such an outstanding person. Okay, let's take away candidate. She's an outstanding person, and she has fought for her husband, and she will fight for Washington. And what we see in Seattle, some of these radical cities with the crime and what they've done with these drug sites and things like that. Tiffany Smiley is there to represent those folks. So I think she's doing great. I think Matt Larkin, who's running in Washington 8 in Kim Schreier's district, that's a potential pickup. And then you've got Joe Kent, obviously, we need to hold. So I think if everyone turns out, we can have a big surprise that night. Patty Murray is a disaster. And she says she doesn't feel any regret about these lockdowns and what's happened to these kids. So the only way you hold people accountable is to let them know when they do the job wrong, and that's firing them. And that's what needs to happen to Democrats across the country who are the cause of inflation, the cause of gas prices, the cause of crime, the cause of these the border being open, the cause of drugs coming across our border, and the cause of these lockdowns. The only way to let them know is to fire them.
I want to conclude by telling you about a story that just broke. It was announced that the three most politically toxic people in America, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and John Fetterman, are going to, quote, campaign together today. I think this is an effort to show that the president is on the campaign trail and the vice president is on it, and no one wants them except a doomed campaign. But I do not underestimate what the triple toxicity politically of those three can do. I hope there are cameras and microphones because you put those three together and they could say anything, Ronna.
Well, maybe they can get a full sentence out. I think John Fetterman drew the short straw on that one, right? I think all the candidates got together and said, which one of us has to campaign with Biden? And
yes, he said, I've lost, so bring him up here. I'm done. I'm toast. Put some butter on it.
So Biden said, between the two of us, we may be able to finish a full sentence. I don't know. It's really bad. It's really bad. Fetterman's so bad. And, nobody wants Biden. Nobody's asking for him. None of these candidates want him out there. His approval's incredibly low. And great. Put him in Pennsylvania. I think that helps Oz and the whole ticket.
I really do think it triple toxicity when it comes to politics. All right.
Get out your hazmat suit. Get out your hazmat suit, right?
Candidate. There will not be one other candidate near that rally unless it's a doomed candidate. It's like the Legion of Doom getting together. Ronna McDaniel, let's talk about batting and bunting and stealing bases, the fundamentals of Election Day. What does the RNC do?
We are the get out the vote machine. So, Hugh, you know this. We have had the largest operation we've ever put together. We have made 80 million voter contacts, and right now we are out knocking doors and in neighborhoods that we know, saying, hey, you have an absentee ballot or you haven't voted yet, or can I talk to you about this candidate that I know that I was just with? And it's the biggest single way you change a vote is by talking to someone you know. And we're doing that through our volunteers, and I encourage everyone listening to you to do that on their own. The only way people change votes usually is if they talk to somebody who gives them the facts and they trust that person, and that's how we make a difference.
And if you've got the last $10 and you want it spent wisely, send it to the GOP because you've got everything on your radar, right? You know where the most need is.
I'm actually moving money today, so every day we're looking at money and races that are coming online, or we're expanding the map right now. The map is actually expanding for us, so we don't want to leave seats that we could win on the table. So this is that time where if you send us resources, we're going to invest it wisely to bring candidates across that nobody expected to win. That's the focus.
GOP.com. Ronna McDaniel, thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. You work so hard, and I appreciate it as a Republican. I appreciate it as an American. Thank you.
You. Take care.